2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2022, 2022, 2022, 2022, 2022, 2022, 2022, 2022, 2022.
Welcome to the American Fork Podcast. Here we are. Hello. We're here to fix America.
Hi, Jeff.
One conversation at a time. And if we're effective, I don't know. Are we effective?
Yeah.
Okay. That's settled then.
We've already fixed like 39% of all America's problems.
Oh, that's good.
Even without advertising on billboards
Oh, yeah.
That's valid.
In Utah.
in Utah.
Okay, shush it.
Oh.
I'm trying to start a podcast.
Oh, yeah. We're not supposed to say
Yeah.
anything. You're
No one
supposed
knows that you're even here.
to. Oh.
Okay, so across from me is
They
Phil.
will? Okay, now they
Okay,
know.
Jake. Shh. Phil is across from me.
I'm here. This
Hi,
is
Phil.
Phil. What up and welcome. Yeah. It's been a while since I've heard that radio blast.
The radio butter.
Yep.
Audio velvet.
That's Jake. That's Phil. Hi, Phil.
Yeah.
Jake, you're sitting diagonally from me
Yeah, same spot as every time.
as every time. Except for when we were at Skinwalker Ranch, by the way.
Yeah, I was in a different spot.
Yeah, we were like holding hands side by side in the dark.
True that. If you haven't listened to that episodes, go back, listen to Skinwalker Ranch. Jake, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful.
That's good.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you for your one answer. And then our guest today is Walter. We're going to get into his specialties and abilities and expertise at the end of the show. But hello, Walter.
Hello.
He's a rocket scientist.
Oh,
can
really?
say
You
that
just
now.
spoiled it.
Oh, episode's over.
I was like wrapping
Thanks for
the
listening.
present, and then you just went under the tree and opened it.
Well, yeah, you have to give people a reason to hang on because otherwise they're like, Walter.
That's true.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Click.
you really do have to give a little more.
Yeah.
You have to tease a little bit.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to
Yeah.
get love advice from
That
you
wasn't a
guys as well.
joke. He's a rocket scientist.
No, it's not a joke.
Yeah.
Walter is a rocket scientist.
It's going to be awesome.
We're going to talk to
Master
him.
Walter.
Master Walter, that's right.
We'll get into that too.
Okay, well, I'm glad that we're here. We're going to start with some American Fork news as we usually do. Couldn't find much from specifically American Fork, and if you guys have something, just let me know. But what I did find is that nobody is safe from homeless people. Did you guys hear about this story?
I haven't.
Okay, so a man was arrested for breaking into the Provo temple claiming he was cold. And
I did hear about this.
yeah. I thought it was just weird. He broke a window and got into the temple, and he didn't steal anything. I guess he got a glass of water, warmed up, and left.
Oh, that was it?
Yeah, it's not a very cool story.
Oh, I thought it was like $5,000 in damage.
Well, I was going to get to that. Guess
Oh.
how much the window cost?
$5,000.
$4,000.
Oh.
But after delivery, $5,000.
Was it stained glass made in like 1874?
It was stained glass, yeah.
Oh, was it really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he broke it using like a cookie sheet or something.
I guess they are stained glass on that
Where did a
temple.
homeless guy get a cookie sheet?
It was an easy bake oven
off
cookie
of his
sheet.
off of his cart?
Yeah.
Was it that guy outside of Pioneer Park?
Yeah. He's not the kind that has a backpack. He has a cart train, and so he just had to go to the cooking caboose, and you know what I mean.
Those poor people.
there, yeah.
God bless them.
Are you taking the high road right now?
Hope they're all staying warm.
Every time I go out to take the garbage out with my shoes off in the winter, I think to myself, if I was homeless, I would not survive. I would off myself.
That-
At the end of October, as soon as it gets to be too cold, I'd be like, I'm done.
That's what triggers you.
That's what I thought because I used to work with a guy that used to be homeless, and now he's a successful what do you call it? Person? Contractor?
Yeah, that's what you call him.
A successful home
Walks
man.
on two legs,
But
speaks.
he was like, yeah, I slept in a tent for like 2 years, and I was like, that actually sounds like fun. And he's like, not in the winter, it's not.
Yeah.
So
I have to admit, I've seen homeless people and like thought, this is Phil's jam
Yeah.
right here. Like
Yeah.
they got everything on their back. They got a home base below 13th South.
it's like when I watch Away on Netflix, where they just drop
Yeah.
people off in the wilderness.
Alone.
I'm like,
Alone, you mean?
alone. That's right. I'm like, so they just have to camp for like 2 months, and then they get $1 million.
Yeah.
As long as they find enough fatty food,
Yeah.
then they're good
Yeah.
because they all know how to survive.
Yep.
Yeah.
But if they don't find food with enough fat to sustain them, then
Yeah. Put my name in, listeners, for Alone,
alone.
whatever that show is.
Yeah.
Just write them and say, Phil from the American Fork podcast
Put me in, coach.
needs to be dropped off out there.
Boy Scout and wilderness survival expert.
Yeah.
It would probably help your guys' ratings.
Yeah, there you go.
It's true.
That's all I'd talk about while I'm out there by myself. I just hope people are listening to my podcast.
That's how you can support me. I don't need. Yeah, I know you want to like do a food drop, but just listen to the podcast. Let's get some sponsors.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, I don't
Please.
even want to win. I just want to
Just-
advertise.
For me,
Yep.
you love me.
Exactly.
That was Phil's intention in starting this podcast, is to be on Alone.
Yeah.
Is that a good enough derailment?
I feel completely
So,
railed.
so don't break stained glass windows.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it does bring up a big point of
for a
like
glass of water.
everywhere. It seems like there's homeless people everywhere. They do migrate in the winter. They
Yeah.
tend to leave Utah, go to warmer climates, but in the summer here, it's everywhere. I'm seeing it in every state, in every city now,
Yeah,
even in Utah County.
California is nuts, though.
Even in Box Elder, though, only in the more populated areas. You don't see it as much in small towns
Yeah.
like Tremonton, but there's just not a lot
Yeah,
of people.
where there are a lot of people they can ask money for. you know.
Right.
That's
More
where
of those
they
transportation
congregate.
hubs. More of those transportation hubs, kind of like, well, it's kind of like when a restaurant tries to set business. They try to be where there's the traffic.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's the same for these people who try to panhandle. They go.
You got to go somewhere there are a lot of cardboard boxes and Sharpies.
So you can guarantee they'll be in front of a Walmart, for example, but you won't see them as much in a tiny little town like Tremonton, although it's growing pretty fast.
I think I agree with Jake. You need a town that at least has a little Caesars so you can get cardboard
Mhm.
and office supply store of some kind so you can get Sharpies.
Mhm.
If they don't have those two things, it's probably too small of a
You
town.
need the thick Sharpies.
yeah, the thick ones.
Like the 3/4 inch long, wide.
Yeah.
We're fully on board, Jake.
I can tell you, though, that California's bad right now. Like,
It
I
is
know,
terrible.
I know some news networks are saying that, but it's worse than the news is saying.
Right.
I've been down there quite a bit lately.
Well, I think the punishment for this next story, see how I did that,
Mm-hmm.
should be to move to California.
Oh,
And I actually don't have all the details. One of you guys brought this up to me. So the judge calls the Orem mayor a linchpin in a fraud case, orders him and his son to pay $1 million.
oh, I brought that up, and I was hoping you'd read about it because I didn't.
Oh,
So,
so next story.
Wait, so
No.
what was the crime?
So
yeah, don't
I
know.
did read a little bit.
Okay.
So basically, they in another state, and I believe it was Louisiana, they started purchasing homes, but realistically, they were scamming people out of their money and using that money to literally gamble. Like the mayor Orem,
The mayor
cities,
of Orem City.
his son like had some gambling whatever, so he was literally spending the money in casinos, and then when it came for these people to get their money back that they invested, he was basically nowhere to be found. I don't know. But he was being a butthead in court and not really being professional. And yeah, so this Alabama court told them they have to pay $1 million.
$1 million.
More than $1 million.
Wonder if he'll get reelected after that.
Yeah, I wonder. Him and his son
It was
started
opponent's
this.
a Democrat.
Yeah. Or did he get disfellowshipped
from the
from the mayor?
from the
from
Church of Mayorhood.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Oh.
But there's some scandal going on with that. Honestly, I don't really. To me, it's like, oh, what else are they doing? Because
Yeah.
I'm sure there's something else than just that.
Yeah, that's bizarre to hear
Not
about.
surprising at all, though, from a politician.
Oh, yeah. I would think local. I don't know. Local politicians are not.
Yeah,
that
like
Not as
bad, are they?
crooked.
not
Probably because they're not as career,
Yeah.
like long-lasting.
Maybe it's just less dollar
Politician.
amounts that they're like
just take off of
funneling away.
every level of government you move to. You just add a zero,
Oh, yeah.
and then when you know,
Yeah.
Once it hits billions of dollars, then you get mad at them.
PTA
exactly.
president is the lowest. and
That's
then
$10.
moves up.
Yeah.
So
PTA president starts at $10.
So are we
Yeah.
talking about pay grades of corruption here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, like that.
It's based on how big your influence is.
So, all right, so like the city councilman of like what's the
Tremont.
tiny town? Okay, yeah, sir. See the councilman Tremont. He's just been turned in today for asking for free Twinkies from the local gas station.
Exactly.
Yeah. $100.
Yep. And when you're up,
How good's it?
and when
Crying
you're
out,
a
Trump,
United
love it.
States Senator, it's 3 Twinkie company subsidiaries.
Trillions of dollars.
Subsidiaries.
The story I was going to bring up, I'm glad none of us read these, but was this, only a few people really hate books. That's what I called this, but only a small group of parents utilizing this new law to help ban books in Utah school libraries. So basically, there's a new law that passed that can help ban books in libraries.
A Utah law?
Mm-hmm. And it's specifically dealing with school libraries,
Oh,
not
okay.
county libraries. But I didn't really get into the details of the law that got passed. But what I can tell you is that there has been a string of complaints for various books, and it's unbelievable because there's like 300, like a huge uptick in complaints on books, right? That number is, I'm just scrolling down to find it, is like 320 something complaints about books and them being inappropriate for kids, right? In these junior highs and high schools and elementary schools.
Yeah.
199 of them were filed by the same couple.
199 complaints.
Yep. And sorry,
Of the 205.
205 filings, 199 of them came from the same couple.
This is complaints about the books
Yep.
that they had at the library.
They're calling them unsuitable reading materials.
And was this, I assume it was like transgender and gay books or something? Or
No, I think it goes a lot deeper than that. It's like there's a list of books apparently that are like, and not Utah, but they're like, these should be inappropriate. And I don't know what group put this out, but some list online. And so these people basically compared that list to the library's, catalog,
Yeah.
and said, oh, they have that book, file a complaint. Oh, they have that book, file a complaint. And they found 199 of them.
They just did a VLOOKUP
Are there any
in a
particular?
spreadsheet, and
Are there any particular books of interest on that list?
yeah,
I
we
don't-
would like to know, Jeff.
I feel like we're ready to know, like what. Just to give examples.
That's fine. I will give you the email address for KUTV2 because they don't actually put it on here.
Okay, because I know, for example, like when I was on my mission, I knew a guy who got really worked up about Harry Potter. It's just like, oh, it's a terrible book. It teaches kids about magic. It's like it's
fiction.
It's fiction. It's okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder about these books, even the ones that are like what I consider to be out there, where they're like, apparently there have been some like transgender type books, like, hey kids, like you can be a blah, blah, blah. And they're apparently pretty graphic in them. I don't even know if I care, even though I don't agree with it, I don't care if it's in a school library because my kids are not like reading every book in the school library. I don't know.
Most kids aren't even going to the school.
They're not even
libraries
going in
anymore.
there. I don't know. Maybe that's not right. And how are these parents finding
Sam
all those
Beeson
books?
told us kids are not dues in the library anymore.
Yeah. Well, we never used the library. We didn't go in the library.
Only if it was an assignment to go in there.
Yeah, to go in and check out a book.
I did, but
You did?
I did, but then again,
Did you
Well-
go in and like read book after book, or did you just like, oh, I want to read this book and go in there? Or were you like
There was a book you knew
reading
you
a
wanted,
bunch of
you'd go
books
and
in
find
there?
I
it.
read a lot of books.
read a lot of them?
See, he's a rocket scientist.
So you might have found these
we're not.
controversial ones. We wouldn't have.
I wasn't into that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I was
know.
more like, I want to read
Well,
Jekyll and
I think
Hyde.
the problem is he's saying you would have maybe come across them as you
But
browse for books.
But that's what I'm saying. Like,
It was
who's
really
gonna?
interesting to me, though. I mean, it was like junior high or whatever. I was,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. In junior high, I didn't know anyone that was reading like those kind of books.
I didn't
we
know
have
how
a
to read
library
till I
at
was
the junior high?
25.
Was there a library?
I don't even remember where.
Oh, that's true. I don't remember.
Like I
junior
can tell
high
you
either.
exactly where the high school library was.
Yeah.
And I'd been there a lot, but junior high, I don't even remember.
I can't think of one. I don't think there was a library there.
I can tell you exactly how to get to the vending machine room still,
Mhm.
but library, I'm not sure.
in
that
the
there was
gym
one.
and the auditorium where
Yeah,
we spent a lot
principal's office, Mr. Moon's
of time.
class.
Just trying to think of where that library was. I don't-
Yeah. See, parents, calm down. We don't even know where the libraries are, so you don't need to worry about the books.
Well, let me tell you this. So a lot of the reason why I actually chose that story to bring up was because I had an experience probably 2 months ago where my one of the kids that lives with me, they brought in their books from the library, county library.
Yeah.
And I'm going through these books and I'm like, oh my gosh, totally inappropriate books.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is manga. You guys know what manga is a big deal now. Do you even know what that is?
Is that a drink?
Yep. Mangsta energy drink.
Manga energy.
No,
Mangsta?
manga. It's a Japanese cartoon, like
Japanese
book.
comic books.
Yeah, there you go.
Basically.
So you literally read the book backwards, and it's all cartoons. And when I say cartoons, it's drawings with captions. It's a comic book.
Oh, it's Japanese comic books.
Exactly.
Manga?
Manga.
Yeah. I think that's right.
Manga, which translates to Japanese comic book.
Monster
Right.
drink.
No. So I'm
No,
going
I think
through.
you're saying the wrong word.
No, it's manga. Trust me.
Keep going.
Let me
I'm
tell
just
you my
gonna
story
Google
while
on the
you-
side.
Magna.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bad water.
No, manga.
No.
Manga. So basically, I was like, this is so inappropriate. I don't even want to get into some of the pictures that I saw, but it was rated for older teens. Okay. And it was completely inappropriate. I would say it was nothing short of pornography, right?
It was just drawn instead of.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a drawing of it and whatever. So I go through a bunch of these books and it's very sexual, okay?
Yeah.
So I set up an appointment with a lady who is in charge, one of the ladies on the council that dictates or goes over banning books and getting rid of books and stuff.
Yeah.
And it is a very delicate, fine line to walk on. And she helped me understand that because this is America. Who's to say what information can and cannot be out there? And I'm like, well, anyway, it was a cool conversation I had with her. I told her, hey, if you had a stack of Hustler magazines, like those will probably get rented out pretty quick, but why don't you have them?
Yeah.
But you do have this. And there's a whole checklist of like to determine whether it's art or whether it's has a value in its story or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And anyway, long story short, she's like, listen, I appreciate the concern that you have, and we're definitely going to take a different look at some things, but they separate all the older teen and adult type manga books and comic books to the adult section and the other ones to the kids, the teen section.
Yeah.
And that's all they do to separate it. But it's very hard apparently to ban books. And honestly, I don't think people want them to be banned.
Can't we just burn them?
Yeah,
Isn't that a thing?
that's happened before.
We already
yeah.
know at what temperature they
Right.
ignite, right?
Something above 450 degrees.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, ladder 49. What was it?
Oh, yeah. That one.
Fahrenheit 451.
Oh, yeah.
I think I started reading that book once, but I don't know. For some reason, I think I read a couple pages, like, not interested.
Yeah.
I think we read that in.
Then what? You burned
in
it?
Beeson's class.
Yeah. See, the problem with it is there might be a book that maybe merits banning, but then who decides that? And you ban one book and now a different set of people are in charge and they decide to ban a different kind of book. So I do kind of err on the side of books shouldn't be banned, but I get the point where it's like these are kids, they're minors, they're in school. Like the content that you're providing in the school should in theory be minor appropriate. So
Right. I think
Right
it's a
on.
little easier to set those definitions like in a school setting.
Yeah.
Like a public library, I think it's more of.
It's more difficult.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a public library is more difficult because it's, hey, this is what's sanctioned by the city. This isn't just for little kids. You have
Yeah.
adult material there for adults as well.
right.
And we live in a society that theoretically has freedom of speech, freedom of the press, etc.
Yep.
So it's a delicate matter. So
You got to burn the
it-
books about the Jews.
Jake has a black hoodie pulled down over his face right now.
Because he knows what story's coming up next. So this story, I just want to tell you, Hitler died in 1945, and then he hung out in the afterlife for 32 years, and then he came back, and his name now is Kanye West.
And
Hitler.
Yay is actually now.
Oh, ye.
Yay.
Ye.
Hit ye.
Hit ye.
Kanye is Hitler. That's what you're saying.
Well, I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Adolf Yay.
I thought it was just a shock artist.
Yeah.
That I don't know if he believes all that stuff, but he says it because he's trying to create shock and he's trying to just create controversy
Yeah.
for the sake of being able to prove that, yes, this is a free country, you can say such things, I'm sacrificing my career. At least that's one spin I've heard on it.
I need to be popular again.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say.
I've wondered that actually, because it does seem to be like before it was kind of like, and now it's like just absurd. Like, didn't he say something like, oh yeah, I would hire a Jew if, what'd he say?
If I could go through their phone or
Yeah,
something.
if I could go through their phone, what in the world?
Why would you even say that? I actually agree with Walter on this one.
Yeah.
It's like, he's just saying stuff to make you go, what?
Yeah,
Because then guess what? Everyone across the country goes, what?
yeah.
And,
So in case there are any listeners who have been living under a rock, what exactly are you referring to?
Yeah,
Jeff?
yeah.
So basically, Kanye has had some interviews in the past of like where he's said some pro-Nazi Hitler type things, right? And then most recently,
Anti-Semitic stuff.
right? And then most recently, he said, "I like Hitler," and then he's fully masked, which is why Jake pulls his freaking beanie over his face just now. And he said, "I love Jewish people too, but I also love Nazis." But that was on the Alex Jones podcast or a show or something like that. And he instantly was like, "Well, I have to disagree with that." He like instantly
Alex Jones
Alex
disagreed.
Jones disagreed with him, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Alex Jones, right?
Yeah, he
it
did.
was Alex Jones. Yeah.
So you know something's up.
It's pretty serious when,
If he's like,
well, let's not get into crazy.
there you go. That's good.
conspiracy theories here. Let's just bring this all back down and get it back to earth. Yay!
yeah, I wonder what, because if you'll remember, Kanye is the guy. If you YouTube this back during Hurricane Katrina, if you're that old, is the guy that was like, Mike Myers is on there like, hey, we got to raise money for these people. They're blah blah blah, and then Kanye just like chimes in and goes, George Bush hates black people. Like on national news,
They're doing a live telecast to raise money for Hurricane Katrina.
And so now he's
relief.
like gone a complete 180.
Totally off script.
So it could be like you're saying, Walter, where he's always been that way. He just wants to rile people up.
Taylor Swift, remember? He introduces Taylor Swift to get some award, best music video.
Yeah,
he
the
gets
Grammys.
up there and goes, I just want to say that Rihanna has the best music video out there.
Oh yeah.
No, she got the award and he stood up
Oh,
and
right.
took
Okay.
the mic from her.
Okay, yeah. And it was like,
Completely interrupted the whole thing.
I remember that now. Yeah. He's an entertainer, that's for sure.
I don't know
But-
why did Kim Kardashian seems to have kind of her head on straight a little bit. I mean, her
I'm sorry, what?
priorities are skewed, but she seems like a moderately like level-headed person for the most part. I don't know what.
How else do you justify watching the show?
How do you have kids with someone like that?
I
I
don't know
love
any,
keeping up
I
with
don't,
Kardashians.
I don't know anything about Kim
I don't.
Kardashian. I think she has black hair, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
That's all you need
And
to know.
apparently she has a big butt. That's all I know.
Mhm.
I don't think I could pick her out in a lineup.
I've never seen the show. Have you watched it?
Keeping up with the Kardashians. I may have stumbled across it.
Oh,
on some
really?
channel
Yeah, right.
And stayed on it.
I know
for a
that
long
that's your
time.
For
jam.
like a
4
week and a half,
episodes at
6
once.
weeks.
It's
Okay.
The Bachelor and
Yes,
then
I've-
Keeping Up with Kardashians.
I've seen it.
You watched all 5 seasons of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. I know you did.
So wait,
Yeah,
wait,
I did.
that was me.
I did. Oh, yeah.
you're
you-
done?
Did
Yeah.
you watch Breaking Bad?
Are you
Breaking Bad
serious?
too?
It's only been like 2 weeks. That's
I'm
like
not keeping
600
track
hours.
of time.
You watched both? You watched Breaking Bad too?
I literally
As well?
watched the last episode. Oh, I'm actually on the last episode of Better Call Saul.
Oh my gosh, that's the best one.
Where are you getting the last season?
Oh, it's season 5. Is there another one?
What are you watching,
where
it,
are you watching
on?
it on?
Netflix?
Oh no, the newest season.
Season
I think.
6 is currently in the process.
Yeah.
Well, there
It's-
goes next
I think
week.
it's only on.
No, it won't be out yet.
It's only on YouTube TV. Some episodes, but AMC.
Well,
is it?
I buy them every season, so I have it on iTunes. But it just came out a couple months ago, so it'll probably be next year before that season comes out.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that another time.
'Kay.
Or later today.
But Kanye,
Oh, yeah. That's
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
I was just gonna say, it could be either way. Either he's intentionally like, because it's so, if you scroll back in time, people are talking. I remember like Larry King is a perfect example, talking to someone about him and like, oh yeah, Kanye's a genius. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met.
Mm-hmm.
So either he's that or he's insane.
No,
or maybe both.
I think
don't
he's
know.
genius. There has to be a degree of, and I don't mean genius like book smart. Like Walt is a genius, but I'm talking like business wise, PR wise, whatever. He's brilliant. There's no question about it. You know why I know that? Because look at the amount of attention he can receive when he does things.
Yeah,
He's got to be brilliant in something.
yeah.
He's a very, very successful artist.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing about, artists in the music industry or acting is you have to remember at the end of the day, they are actors.
Yeah.
They do what they do to try to get the most attention, the most PR, and sometimes it's just to prove a point. Anyways, I got the idea of, Kanye doing it mostly for shock value from of all people. I also listened to the podcast by Scott Adams, writer of Dilbert, and his opinion on the matter is that Kanye intentionally does it for the shock value in his mind, and it's just to, in his mind, it's to prove the point that, hey, if this is a free country, I should be able to say these things as stupid and insane and racist and misogynist as they are, because in theory, we should have the right to be wrong.
Yeah.
And, and from that point of view, that kind of makes a twisted sort of sense, but it's definitely costing Ye.
It's costing him a lot of money. What's it up to now? $1.2 billion?
I think he lost Nike.
He's only
It was
got
Adidas.
poor
Adidas?
guy's only got like 600 million left, maybe.
Yeah.
Only.
Right.
Which, if you haven't seen Dave
He might have had to
Chappelle's,
sell one of his mansions.
Maybe.
if you haven't seen Dave Chappelle's intro on Saturday Night Live a couple weeks ago, it was awesome because he's like, yeah, he lost $1 billion from Adidas, who ironically was started by Nazis. And he's like, the student has surpassed the teacher.
Oh gosh. I mean, there's one time I remember having a conversation, and I've backed off since then, and maybe I shouldn't even bring it up now. I remember having a conversation with someone one time, and this was way before like online stuff, and so it wasn't social media or socialized. But I remember telling somebody like, Hitler was an incredible artist. I think so. Like, have you seen his paintings?
Oh, I haven't. Like
Okay.
an artist, you're saying.
Yeah.
But just what I just said right there, I instantly was like, I shouldn't be talking like this.
You are a white supremacist.
Am I allowed to say anything positive about someone like Hitler?
and
If you guys don't know, Jeff does have the purest, whitest skin you could.
I do joke often that, well, Hitler thought I was perfect.
He did recently shave his head.
Like, whoever Hitler was
Jay, quit trying to make me mad.
epitomizing, it was Jeff. Like,
Let me show you this. I'm going to show these guys pictures, and then you can
Hitler.com, Hitler art.
I don't want to say he's incredible, but I can tell you this: he's way better than I would be.
Yeah, so we're looking at like, what is that in Moscow? What?
No, probably Germany,
Turn of the century.
I guess so.
Poland.
I would
Probably.
guess it'd more likely be Austria because Hitler was Austrian before
Oh, there
he
you go.
Is that
moved to
Hogwarts?
Germany.
This
does look like-
Hogwarts, Jake.
It does look like
It may have inspired.
Franco-Euro
Is that
Austrian.
the castle that the Disneyland castle was based
Cinderella's
off of?
castle. Yep.
Yeah, he's not.
It's Snow White's castle.
He's not bad. He's not like, I wouldn't say.
Oh, he's no Picasso.
It's not
I
as
mean,
it's not as dark as you would think art from someone like Hitler would be.
Yeah, it just looks like normal art.
Yeah, it's scenic and
Jake, be careful.
Like something that like your
it's terrible. It's
like-
horrible art. There's nothing good about that art.
like your uncle that paints is like, it's like that.
Oh, that's not. Anyway, I
We're-
guess the whole
we're
reason.
scrolling through.
Those are good.
Well, no, they're good, but they're not like not money making good.
Not award winning.
No.
I mean, they are because they're Hitlers.
If
but
you remove
Yeah.
the genocide factor, they're not as prevalent.
Yeah, I wonder how valuable these are.
Well, one of them said they auctioned for $440,000.
Oh,
I guarantee it's not because it's a good piece of art. It's
No.
because
because
it was done by Hitler.
yeah, it's
You would
like
thi-
He should have watched more Bob Ross. Maybe he would have turned out differently.
Yeah.
It's just it's just your painting. You make it your piece of work.
Yeah.
Just be
Put some
calm
happy
down
trees
there.
here.
Happy trees.
Happy
These
trees.
ones need-
Everybody.
And it's like,
This
this
one needs-
tree is not happy. It's
Everybody.
angry.
This one
Everybody
needs a little
Exactly.
Everyone needs a friend.
Everyone needs a friend.
just
You
gonna-
This tree a
heathen.
friend here.
I'm just going to clean my brush. The producers hate it when I do this.
Yeah.
You guys hear us say that?
Which ended up giving him cancer, they think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he would clean his brush by he'd dip it in turpentine
Yeah.
and beat it against the table.
Uh-huh.
And they think the vapor of that turpentine gave him the cancer or whatever that killed him.
It wasn't the crack.
Nope,
Oh.
no crack.
Okay.
There's like a documentary about him on Netflix. It's not called Trumbo.
It's not. I have seen that one.
Yeah,
Is it
I've
called
seen
Better
that.
Call Saul?
no.
Okay, I'm not going to watch it then. All right, on to what are we at now?
National.
I did want to mention this. America is no longer free. This is just really quick. America is no longer free because the U.S. Senate unanimously passed a bill to curb private ownership of tigers. I'm just saying we can't do what we want now.
Oh wait,
That's downhill from
Senate?
1984.
Big cats. U.S. Senate unanimously passed a bill to curb private ownership.
unanimous. So we're not going to have any more Tiger Kings.
So does that mean we can't? The Sigmund and Roy. Well, I guess the Sigmund and Roy show has been done for decades, but
Well, would that qualify as
privately
private? As if it's
They
if
probably
it's a
didn't own the
corporation or
tigers.
something?
They probably just used them for entertainment, and they were owned by.
Well,
I
you
guess
know
nobody can own, right? Is that what you're saying?
Ye-
No private.
What I'm saying is that they set all tigers free. They're all free now. They're free people.
they let them go in the
Yeah.
streets of New York.
Free
The
people. tigers.
tiger slavery is over.
You know this is because of Tiger King, right?
Oh, I'm sure.
It's
Yeah.
Operation Underground Railroad. That's their
Operation
success.
Underground Bamboo.
I love Tiger King because what a joke.
It's a train wreck.
But I did think that they were what's the word? Too much like, oh, the tigers. I was like, those tigers look like they're well fed. What are you talking about? They're like, oh, this one had flies on it once. So, have you ever seen an animal?
I had a fly on me once.
They have. You can go out in the Serengeti, film some lions out there. Guess what? There are flies all over them. Way more than in that comfy zoo.
Yeah.
So
So zoos can't even own tigers?
No,
private. Like
Is a zoo
They're
not
pretty
a
much
private
making-
people,
industry?
I'm guessing.
they're pretty much making Tiger King illegal.
Yeah. What Tiger King was doing, can't do anymore.
Yeah.
But if
But a zoo can have them, in theory, Ringling Brothers if
It's-
they weren't bankrupt.
It's probably like a
so, you
liquor
just
license.
need an LLC to own a
No,
tiger?
it's probably like a liquor license where your business can apply for a permit to have certain animals.
But didn't he have a business?
I'm glad to
Tiger
know
King
our
had a
government
business.
can get these critical questions in line and leave.
No,
the
I
trivial
see what you're
stuff,
saying.
the side.
I think we do need more information here, Jeff.
Listen, I said I didn't want to talk about it.
Oh.
It's really hard for me to talk about.
Because
I have to get rid of my tiger.
Didn't he have a tiger, like a zoo license or whatever?
Yeah.
That's it, you guys.
If
We're
you
going
don't-
back.
to know-
No, we're going back.
Is this 1984 or not? Can I get an LLC and own a tiger?
So this is from the BBC, the British Broadcasting Company or Corporation.
Maybe
Channel.
Channel?
Mhm.
Okay.
I thought it was company.
It's company.
See?
Yeah, geez, Jake.
I was wrong.
Go
my whole
back to the
life.
Kardashians.
Bill restrict private ownership of big cats like lions and tigers in the U.S. has passed unanimous consent. Big Cat Public Safety Act would stop people from keeping the animals as pets and from them being exposed to public petting and photo opportunities.
The
It
zoo
says right
is
in
a
here.
photo opportunity.
So it's pretty much,
It says right in here, efforts to curb private ownership have increased in the wake of the Netflix documentary series Tiger King.
yeah, they're pretty much like, that guy was crazy, let's make it illegal.
Yeah.
There's no one else in the country doing it. Although it turns out there were like 4 other guys, right?
Well, there were a ton.
Yeah.
It was like a network of
Of
big
like-
cat.
Conservationists,
Yeah.
conservationists, as many as 7,000 tigers are living in the United States, either in zoos or privately owned. Nearly double the estimated 3,890 tigers living in the wild.
Interesting that they put zoos and private individuals together
Top right
because
there.
I bet there's there's less than maybe a couple hundred people at most in the United
Yeah.
States that have a private tiger.
There you go.
Under the new bill, possession of lions, tigers, leopards, snow leopards, jaguars, cougars, or any hybrid of these species would be limited to wildlife sanctuaries, universities, and certified zoos.
See, I don't know how I feel about this because they were breeding a lot of tigers. Like they're keeping the tiger population up doing that, right?
Yeah.
But now it's going to be less.
Yeah. Well, they said right there, just in the United States, there's like 7,000 tigers.
Yeah.
And in the entire world, it's estimated that there's like 4,000.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So, yeah.
So why not?
We should all have woolly mammoths in our backyard.
I kind of
Let's
think
bring it back.
this is
There
dumb.
are scientists who have been working on that.
I know. It's pretty funny.
For a
actually.
long
decades.
time now. Yeah.
You know what I'm going to be mad about, though, is if Carol Baskin gets to keep her tigers.
Yeah, she can't even keep a husband.
Carol Baskin killed her husband.
Yep. I that show is a train wreck, and I loved it. It was
Oh, my
great.
gosh. Did you watch the sequel or follow-up
I don't
or
think
whatever?
I did. Oh, for when he was in prison?
There were two of them. There's like a Tiger King sequel, and then there's like a Don or Doc or whatever that other guy's name that had like 5 wives. There's a spin-off of
He's
his.
the scary one.
Yeah,
He's the creepy one.
yeah. Well, they did one on him. They're all going to prison, like every one of those tiger dudes. It's wild.
Okay, we're going to go to Person of the Year. Who is it?
Elon Musk.
Brittany, what?
Brittany Griner.
What
Oh.
Who put
I
this
would've
story
figured
in
it was
here?
President Zelensky.
F. Brittany Griner.
I did. No, that was a good one.
Didn't we
She
just-
got...
Just pardoned her, right? Or like,
So what was the deal? She was in Russia, and they like arrested her and said she had pot.
She had
on her.
weed on her. Yeah.
Or she was dealing it or something. I don't know. Yeah, which she could or could
it was
not
like
have.
that movie with Kate Beckinsale where she was overseas and someone planted drugs in her girlfriend's backpack and
Oh,
they
yeah.
both got arrested. And
Maybe
like
she
that.
did. Maybe she didn't. I think she says she didn't. Anyway, Russia arrested her and sentenced her to the typical like 200 years for Americans possessing drugs or
for
something
4
like that.
ounces.
Yeah.
I don't know how much she
And
had.
I guess they just traded her for
Kanye West.
an arms dealer.
Yeah.
Is that right?
It was Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For traded her for Nicolas Cage. So she's back home, which is good. And there's one more arms dealer back out on the streets of Moscow or something like that.
Yeah,
Seems
it's
like
great.
a bad trade.
This is
Yeah.
the most publicity the WNBA has gotten in since its inception.
Ever?
I didn't know it still existed, to be honest with you,
The
until
WNBA.
she got captured.
There's got to be like, I bet you the NBA pays for the WNBA.
No, they 100% actually
They do? Yeah. It would have to.
And it's funny, there's some, I heard this equal pay thing for WNBA and NBA and how they should be getting paid the same. And somebody brought up the fact of like, well, I think it should be directly proportionate to the amount of money that you bring in. So they figured it all out and they're like, well, the WNBA is supported by the NBA. And so they're actually in the red by like $7 million a year. So if you divide that amongst all players, each player owes $85,000.
Each player would have to pay to play.
It's a joke. I don't even want to get into it.
Yeah,
I don't even care. Men versus women. It doesn't matter to me. It's just the same reason why Baby Shark took off and, other nursery rhymes didn't.
Yeah.
So that's all. It's like some things are just popular and make lots of money and other things fail and they don't make lots of money.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
It's all about getting that addictive drive. They try to start kids when they're young, get them addicted to the sweet, sweet jams that just make parents want to go crazy.
yep.
Oh, Baby Shark? Yeah. I thought you were talking about the WNBA still.
No, Baby Shark.
Baby Shark, Bluey.
Yeah.
Bluey.
Bluey's
No,
cool.
no,
Love Bluey. It's
no,
the best.
No, if she was innocent totally, then I think it's a good trade. Like that sucks that she would be like politically imprisoned or whatever. But if
does
she
suck.
was like, if there were big signs in the airport, if you use weed in our country, you're going to jail. I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's as likely as not that she actually did have some drugs on her, and then Russia just slammed in the book on her to make an example, because there's no other reason they would necessarily pick out a basketball star of all people.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Because I mean,
Except she's American, and
she's an American. She's somewhat well known, and so
yep,
Yeah. Well,
I get it. Something about a war
I
in
know-
Ukraine.
yeah. I know they don't. It's all Americans. My cousin went hunting in Russia. He got big old thing to go get a grizzly bear. And he said he spent more money bribing people to get out of the country in Russia than the entire trip cost.
Really?
Yeah. And he had to give up his rifle. He's like, I was an idiot. I brought like a $4,000 rifle. I shouldn't have. He gave up his rifle because he's like, it's, anyway.
Yeah.
Crazy stories he was telling me, but it's just such a corrupt place. Like,
I don't know why people go to these places, like Egypt. Why would you go to Egypt right now?
Well, they got the pyramids.
Yeah, but that's what, like,
that's about it, right?
That's what I was just reading a book by a guy who went over there, and he's like, "Oh yeah, then we bribed this guy, and then these two guys with guns were running after us, and the guy's like taking us around a thing." I'm like, this sounds like a nightmare. Like, I would not want to go over and like be bribing people all day just to get around, and that's what it sounds like it is.
I actually talked to someone that went to Egypt, and they said that it was amazing. Two girls, and they're young, they're like their 20s, and they went to Egypt during COVID. And they were like, it was awesome.
Yeah.
And they were actually excited to see Americans. They're like, we haven't seen Americans for a long time since COVID started and whatever. And they said it was wonderful. Everyone was really nice. They're like, yeah, you don't go out at night.
Yeah.
You don't go out. Like, it's a really sketchy part of town you're staying in if you're going to go see the pyramids and some of these different things. But you just got to be smart. And they said they didn't feel threatened ever once. So it probably depends on the person, too. If you're kind of an
and when
idiot.
you go. And this could have been years ago and whatever. But
Exactly.
I don't know.
Anyhow.
I'm like, there's a YouTube thing where you can like watch walking inside the pyramid.
Google Earth.
Climbing up it. Google Earth.
Yeah. Go to Google Earth. You can zoom around them like you're a pilot.
Can't climb up it. It's illegal.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. So, person of the year, who is it?
Elon.
Brittany Griner.
Biden. It's of course Joe Biden.
Do you guys really not know who it is? Or being funny?
I would say it's President Zelensky.
Is that because you read the story?
Oh, it is.
I may have seen it online, but it just makes sense.
You cheater.
Anyway.
Just kidding. It is President Zelensky.
Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense. It is.
He got the whole world to gang up on Russia. That's pretty impressive,
Yeah,
actually.
it is.
Yeah, except for Russia. They did not gang up on... Well, he might have got them to gang up on themselves, huh?
He like social media'd war, right? He's like...
Socialized
Like
war.
as soon as it started, he like started putting out bloopies. What's that thing? TikToks.
Oh,
That's right.
Bloopies. How did I even know you were talking about that?
Starts putting out TikToks and he's
blimpies?
like, "Hey, I'm here. I'm not leaving. Let's fight." And everyone rallied around him.
He became the good guy that he is, like the person of the year. Like,
Yeah.
He was the good guy because Russia's the bad guy.
It's so interesting because
it's kind of easy to be the good guy when a major power invades your country with basically no pretext.
Yeah.
Everyone loves a victim.
Although
true.
Ukraine hasn't always been the friendliest back to Russia either. Yeah.
So
People always used to say that, Russians are the scariest white people. I don't know. I think Ukrainians have a leg up on them at this point.
You been to Alabama? Just kidding.
the crazy thing about this is Zelensky, you might not even realize this, but it wasn't very long ago that he was crazy in the news because that's the guy who Trump had the conversation with that started the whole impeachment for Trump, which was, "Hey, Zelensky, we're not going to give you all these weapons to fight Russia unless you give me some dirt on Biden," which he didn't say that exactly or do that exactly, but he got impeached for it. And now it's like a whole war that's involving the whole world. So,
well, he's a comedian turned politician. He was elected in 2019. So that was, a little after Trump was in.
And why doesn't he ever say anything funny?
I don't know. We should email him. He probably has a Insta.
probably because he's like, that's the thing, like Trump was funny in the campaign, but like when he became president, I was like, okay, now he's going to like
Level out.
be serious. But it was just kind of the
Nevertheless,
same, more of the same. Zelensky was probably a normal person that was like, okay, I'm the president of a country now. Probably, I don't know.
Do we find any stand-up routines of Zelensky?
Yeah.
Back before he...
Sure we can.
Yeah.
Zelensky stand-up opening for Joe Rogan. No, I don't know. I'm not going to look for it now, but it is interesting. I knew he was an actor, but I didn't realize he was a comedian.
I didn't either.
So I'll have to figure that out.
Yeah. I just wanted to point out that we're like totally talking about politics. And even though we made fun of Beagle for talking about
we got to edit
politics.
that out. Edit that out.
Cut it out.
Can't say that word.
So sorry, Beagle.
Nope.
It was so dumb of
B word.
Jake to say anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, listen. He already hates me enough, so I can't talk on it.
Okay.
But we're on to our main subject. And our subject and our main is right here.
Our master.
Our master. Master Walter, the rocket scientist.
Hello.
That's you, right? Okay, it's not
That-
the other
that
two
is
in the
you,
room.
right?
That's you. Okay, good. So,
Got the right one.
And the reason he's master, you got to explain that.
He
oh
literally
yeah, because
is.
you have your master's degree.
Yeah, Master of Science of Chemical Engineering.
Yeah.
That's right. And he was just pointing out that, like, if you're a doctor, you call him doctor. So why not master?
Yeah. So
I agree.
Master Walt.
Yeah. Right.
So, one of the biggest reasons why we're like, okay, let's get Walter on, let's get him on now, was because you have been involved in a little program called the Artemis program.
That's right. Yep, mankind's return to the moon.
Yeah.
And I actually don't know a ton about this. I had only recently heard that we're like gung-ho trying to get back to the moon soon.
Yeah, actually, the Artemis program in some form has been going on since like the George W. Bush administration, and it's just kept like coming to be, not coming to be. It's changed from president to president, whether it gets enough funding or not. But basically, since George W. Bush, efforts have been made to work on creating a new space program to get to the moon. So. And of course, your question is, well, gee, what was the purpose of going back to the moon? We went back there in the 60s and 70s. Well, it's kind of like this. In the late 60s and the early 70s, going to the moon was, okay, quick, let's cobble what we can together. We have to
Let's get there
invent
first.
half of this technology. Yeah, we have to invent 90% of this technology. Good book I'd recommend, by the way, is Failure is Not an Option, which is all about the mission control side of things. And it was written actually by the legendary flight director, Gene Kranz. And he talks about how basically they had to invent the computers. They had to put, little radio transmitters all over the world because they didn't have the satellites yet to do satellite transmissions. And how just
And they had to
all these technological breakthroughs had to happen within just a couple of years to get,
including like the rockets to get there
right,
and land,
design the
and
rockets,
get them back
building
off.
the rockets.
Yeah.
Right. And everything was done not on a shoestring budget, mind you, but everything was thrown at it. And then what do we get? We got 12 guys on the moon who were there for a total of maybe a couple days. And
You mean if you combine all their time, it's maybe like 48 hours?
right. For
Holy
just
cow.
a few tiny spots on the moon where they picked up some rocks, did some science experiments and just had to come home.
Yeah.
So the plan with Artemis is actually to work on establishing a more permanent presence on the moon. And, you might ask, well, gee, why go to the moon? It's not that interesting. Isn't everyone wanting to go to Mars? Here's the deal. We've spent most of, the last couple generations just going in circles around the Earth. After the Apollo program, mankind hasn't gone more than about 400 miles from the surface of the Earth for, the next 50-ish years.
Is that about how far the International Space Station is?
Yeah, International Space Station, all the shuttle missions. Yep.
Yeah.
Which is essentially, to my understanding, still, it's not like breathable atmosphere, but it's still considered to be like inner atmosphere.
It's high up enough that you don't have to use a lot of rocket fuel to stay in orbit,
Yeah.
but it's pretty close to Earth. Part of the reason for that is if you go much higher than that, like if you get into the realm of, say, like 1,000 miles or so of the Earth's surface, it might be a bit less. You have to start worrying about the Van Allen radiation belts. There's these big bands of radiation around the Earth that if you try to hang out there for long, you'll get really bad cancer and you'll die.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. And part of it is this, it's nice and safe and easy to be close to home. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
So would you say that the main goal of Artemis program is to get man back to the moon, but not just to hang out there for an overnight stay or not even overnight, but you know what I mean? Not for a small period, but to have more. What do you mean by more permanent fixture there?
the the plan is to eventually establish a base near the south pole of the moon.
Hey.
You see, and the reason is ultimately to prepare to go to Mars. So I like to think about it this way. Going to the moon is like, a week-long backpacking trip. It takes 2 or 3 days to get to the moon, like through the Apollo days. You go there, you camp out, you look around and say, hey, this is cool.
Yeah.
Nice dead place. Hey, look, there's Earth back there. Okay, it's been fun. We're going home.
Yeah.
There's that flat disc back there.
Right.
You just show up, eat a peak refuel, and come home.
A few peak refuels. You got to have like the cobbler and
That's
stuff.
true.
Biscuits and gravy.
Right. And then you go to, whereas going to Mars is Columbus sailing to the New World. On the other end, there's no oxygen, there's no water, there's no food, and there's no way to get back home because your cells are going to be destroyed by the time you get there. And so if we're serious about going interplanetary as a species, even just to explore, we have to get really comfortable with landing on other planetary-sized bodies and using the materials that are there.
Right.
So we got to use Martian stuff to survive.
Right. And that's probably the most important thing we'll get out of the Artemis program as it goes on. NASA has already contracted with several companies to go and, work on harvesting water from the moon.
Yeah.
Water is the oil of outer space. It is extremely useful. We want to get our hands on it because with water, you can split it up through electrolysis to make hydrogen and oxygen. That's rocket fuel. You can drink the water for your astronauts, basic life support. And of course, you need the oxygen to breathe.
Then
Right.
you can flush your toilets. Or do
Flushing
they
your
use
toilets?
water?
And grow tomatoes.
It depends on the toilet design.
Dyson makes their toilets.
Oh,
Yeah, which way does it spin on the moon?
It's a straight down
it just
black hole.
sucks down and
Right.
the,
No, but that makes
An
sense
airplane.
because if we needed to go to Mars, we needed to take a bunch of water with us, for example. Wouldn't it actually be better to land on the moon, fill up a ship with a bunch of water, and take off from the moon because there's less gravity to get off that way? Or
I see the moon kind of as a testing ground. So, because, if you go to Mars, you're looking to be gone for several years. Okay. When the astronauts are in orbit around the Earth, the International Space Station, home is never more than like an 8-hour trip.
yeah,
Okay. So it's like if there's something's really bad that happens, they have to abandon ship. They can get back to Earth pretty easy. Go to the moon, you got to get a little out of your comfort zone. You're, within 4 or 5 days, maybe 3 or 4 days of the Earth. So if things go bad, you've got some time. You go to Mars and the planets are literally not aligned right. Something goes horribly wrong. You're dead. You're screwed.
yeah,
And so a lot of Artemis is going on the moon, establishing a base, learning how to use the resources there. NASA and just humanity getting used to living literally off-world, living off the land, and developing the technologies we need so that we can feel more confident about going to Mars. Because, when we go there, we're going to need to be able to, get the water that is on Mars. It is dry. There is water there. It's just hard to get.
yeah.
Making our own rocket fuel. When you can take care of all that baggage, because you can't possibly haul it all with you, then things are going to get interesting for the second space age.
So that's the goal of the Artemis program.
Mhm.
You're not spearheading that you're not like on the toe. So where you're an engineer,
Mhm.
which is it's amazing. But what part do you take in this? Or I mean, with whatever you can talk about, I'm sure there's definitely top secret or secret things you can't discuss. But what aspect are you involved in as far as getting this whole objective completed?
So I work on the solid rocket boosters, which you may have seen in the Artemis 1 launch. Those twin pillars of fire that helped turn night into day and helped Artemis make its way into space. They only last for about 2 minutes, but I worked a lot on those. Spent about the first 4 years of my career going back and forth with NASA and working on these, on the parts of these rocket motors and just making sure that everything was work and everything would be right. Because working with NASA, it's not enough for physics to say it has to work. You have to prove it, have to have mountains of paperwork just to make sure everything's straight. After all, we're going to be putting our astronauts' lives on the line, and we need to make sure that they've only got the best of the best.
So why don't we just reduce our standards on people we're sending up, and we can reduce our standards on rockets, right? Like, let's just send Jimmy, and then we'll just send him on a 2-liter bottle that's pressurized or something,
Or a monkey.
Yeah,
They did it before.
that's right. That's pretty amazing. And how many people? I mean, is it even possible to think of how many people are involved in the Artemis program, or even just in the solid rocket boosters that you're talking about?
Well, the solid rocket boosters, I'll tell you, it's less people than you might think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, it's just me and like one other guy who did the component of the rocket that we're on. I would say the solid rocket boosters, maybe 1,000 people or less.
Oh, that seems like a lot to me.
He was like, 7 guys.
I was going to say, like, if you're watching the credits on Mission Impossible, would it be that long? Would you be scrolling for 10 minutes of
most of those people though would be more like administrative and programmatic people who are involved in the decision making process.
Right.
Well, like the part I work on, it's like 3 guys who actually do the actual building. One guy who does the 3 guys who do the actual inspections. I mean,
Sounds like every corporation.
So,
Yeah.
And
They're like
movie
people that
set-
actually
movie-
do work, and then there's like all these other guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Twitter
Yeah.
before Elon Musk. So, did you have you had actual hands-on work?
to some extent, they don't like engineers to necessarily touch things more than necessary. But yeah, I've had quite a bit of close and personal work on the particular rocket motors that they used on Artemis 1. Yeah, there were some concerns. But yeah, I helped with problem solving there. Mostly we had operations do the actual hands-on work. I like to think of my job as, there's people who are experts at building the rocket. There's people who are experts at writing the instructions on how to build a rocket. My job is to let them know if it's a good idea to do what they're planning on doing.
Yeah. Like your architect of a house, right? You get it designed, but then it has to go to somebody who's like, no, that beam should not be there.
And in which case they should tell me so I can update the design because, yeah, we have very high standards, especially with NASA, the programs to just make sure that
it's literally
everything's in
rocket
order.
science. Yeah.
And these solid rocket boosters are the boosters that get the thing off of Earth.
They give about 75% of the thrust. Yeah.
Right. And then once this thing is in orbit or out of our whatever, those are different rockets that are taking over. Or?
Yeah. Solid rocket boosters are fantastic for giving, a lot of punch to a rocket motor. Probably because, they have a lot of weight and you can use, and almost all that weight is, pure thrust, pure rocket fuel. But, once you get, they actually get exhausted a little after 2 minutes and then they are jettisoned before the rocket gets to orbit. At the same time, the rocket is also powered by, I believe, 3 or 4 space shuttle engines that have been reconfigured. So those are liquid engines that help get it the rest of the way to orbit.
So there's 2 solid rocket, and when you say that, I'm thinking solid like when we did hobby rockets, and the engine you put in there was like a solid material.
Yeah,
probably not the same material, but same concept.
Same concept, right? Except these are 12 feet in diameter, 177 feet long.
Yeah,
built-in 30-foot long segments.
Like if you were standing under that, you'd be dust. You'd just be gone when that thing goes off.
Yeah, if you were standing within 100 feet of it when it went off, you would be more barbecued than your uncle's latest kitchen disaster.
Right.
So I always thought that those little model rockets were like one layer of cardboard away from being a bomb. I mean, is that the case with this too? Like one layer of steel away from being just a massive explosive?
No, it's not cardboard. It's just like a little duct tape away from being a bomb.
Okay, you don't need to get into that. I don't need to be flagged again. But like, that's essentially it. Like there's a science, obviously, that goes into controlling the burn so that it thrusts in a direction instead of just exploding, right?
Yeah, that comes from actually the shape of the propellant grain. Basically,
Of course it does.
Yeah.
So-
That's what I was gonna say.
So
Exactly.
the rocket burns based on the surface area that's exposed and how much propellant gets burned at the same time, and the way its thrust profile is controlled by
Of course.
is by the shape.
I'm so lost.
So yeah, well, what Jeff's saying is like, what you're saying
What
is
stands
part
for-
of the rocket needs to ignite.
Right.
I presume at the bottom first.
The whole length, actually.
So it's actually the whole length up inside this thing.
Yeah. On the front of the rocket motor, we have these ignitors, and it's kind of like a 3-step process. We have a spark that goes into an initiator. The initiator fires kind of a small blowtorch into an igniter. The igniter is about, we'll say 3 feet long or so, 2 feet in diameter, and that sends off a 200-foot long flame that shoots down the whole length
All the
of the
way up
rocket
the
motor,
whole
so it
shaft.
all lights
Yeah.
at the same time.
Oh, and is it like? And again, I'm comparing my rocket knowledge to like
A 9-volt
13-year-old
battery.
hobby rockets.
Yeah.
That motor was like essentially a little dowel, and it was hollow in the middle. Like, is that how the rocket works? So
Yeah.
it's igniting, it's hollow, but like the walls of this thing are lined with propellant.
Well, the propellant doesn't go all the way to the walls, but yeah, most of it is propellant.
So
Wow.
so it ignites from within and kind of burns outward
burns out,
as it goes.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. See, I know.
And if you've
I
ever
saw
seen-
a rocket before.
Right. If you've ever seen a rocket launch that has liquids and solids, you'll notice how they always have the liquid engines burning before they ignite the solids.
Yeah.
That's because the liquid engine, you can turn it off. You can be starting up the liquid engine
All
like,
right.
oh, wait, no, we don't want to go.
Turn the gas off.
And then you can turn it off.
Yeah.
Solids are fantastic because they store really well. They have a lot of energy. They aren't the most fuel efficient, but they just have a lot of kick because there's just so much mass being thrown out of the back of them. But you ignite, as soon as they ignite those solids, you're going,
Yeah.
ready
So-
or not.
There's no turning.
So
back.
even if like a guy threw his cigarette up and accidentally like lit the bottom of it, would it go off, or does it need quite a bit of energy
He's
to
doing
get going?
He's doing math on what a cigarette
Yeah.
cherry burns at
He's like-
versus
I
It
do not
depends
rec-
on how long the cigarette's been burning.
Yeah.
It's just-
Like
If I could tell you a story, I would.
yeah.
But it does not take a ton of energy. That being said, there's also nozzle plugs in there. They actually have the whole thing's capped, mostly so animals don't
Oh,
go
yeah.
in there before they.
So the whole thing's sealed in general, like
Right.
while people are working on it or whatever. So that probably
Well, they
Isn't gonna happen.
they put in the cap before they ship it, and so
Yeah. that makes sense.
And also, yes, there are very strict policies about anything that's flammable. There's limits on types of flash photography
Oh wow.
in areas of the plant. So yeah,
no old-fashioned flash bulbs. Probably
from
not.
the 1870s.
Yeah, that would be like you'd have to have some nerves to like be working on that thing and be under it, and just thinking like at any moment I could just be like I wouldn't even be able to think or react. I would just be gone.
Yeah,
Woof.
these are the kind of work situations that you either die really quick or exit with a Marvel superhero like ability.
Yeah.
Like either one of those is going to
Or your face melts like on Indiana Jones.
Yeah, or
yeah,
whatever.
and of course, safety is extremely important in these things because those are real risks, and my wife's very happy that I do not work on the propellant side.
Yeah. Now, is this the place? I think I've seen videos up it somewhere up kind of by the Salt Lake where they're like testing these things.
It's about 30 minutes away from the promontory site, promontory point where the two railroads met.
Right.
Yeah, it's about 30 minutes east of that is the is where I work.
So once you get to the middle of nowhere, you go 30 minutes east.
That's right.
Okay.
And it's pretty much like they mount this thing sideways and they like fire it against this hillside is what I
We do static tests pretty often.
yeah.
But yeah, basically, static test. So we have many things we calculate and can theorize about in rocket science, but at the end of the day, you just got to fire one off and learn what you can.
Yeah.
After you've done the best preparation you can.
Right.
And that's why we do static tests, which basically means you take your giant rocket motor, you strap it down to the ground really, really good. You put it up against a very heavy concrete block. You might pile up a bunch of sand behind it. You put your cameras in, get all your instrumentation in place, get everyone at least 1.5 miles to 2 miles away. We even have like a little control room up there that looks like a mini version of what you might see at Kennedy Space Center,
Right.
and they go fire it off. It's quite awesome.
Yeah, it's wild.
Has there been anything, because they strap them to the ground, basically?
Yeah.
I'm oversimplifying it. Have there been instances where they come loose or fly away?
Not that I know of, but we sometimes have had other interesting things happen.
But they also got to a point to figure out how to not make it fly away. So I'm imagining it might have had a problem.
Well,
in the
okay,
past.
so the SLS boosters, for example, they're based on the space shuttle technology, and so we're using a lot of the same tooling, a lot of the same test stands that we were using for the shuttle, because it's like, okay, it's like the shuttle, just has a bit more thrust.
Yeah. Made the Earth does it change the direction of the Earth's spin? I'm just kidding. That's
Not significantly.
not funny.
I'm
No,
you
but
can
I
calculate
actually
it.
thought that.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I wonder how many of those it would take to
To
like,
just spin the Earth
yeah,
the other
or
way.
to just like tweak it a little bit.
spin it, speed it up a little.
More than we are contracted to build at this
Yeah.
time.
Let's add an hour to the day.
Yeah,
More than we're contracted to build.
exactly.
That's funny. So, if you're a person out there, how did you and how would somebody get into the path of rocket science? Because it's not like you don't just go to that class, right? So, what's the background, the classes, the schooling that you got to get to where you're at?
Sure. So for anyone who's serious about going to aerospace, I'd recommend going down the path of becoming a mechanical engineer or a chemical engineer. Mechanical engineering is probably more common for that because one of the subspecialties of mechanical engineering is aerospace
Right.
engineering. So I myself actually went through being a chemical engineer, half expecting I'd work on an oil rig, because at the time I was going to college, it was kind of the low days of the space age. The shuttle program was really close to being canceled. Its replacement wasn't going to be ready for years. There was a lot of layoffs actually at the company that I eventually got hired by, and I kept trying multiple years to get an internship and was not having any luck. It was just kind of a rough time. Yeah, I mean, I even started doing my master's thesis in petroleum, always trying to look for my in, and then finally one thing I did do though is I kept interviewing with the company basically every year, every time I had a chance, kept working on my resume, kept working on my approach. So yeah, if you really want something bad enough, you got to sometimes try harder than you expect.
So it wasn't like just go get your master's and some recruiters just took you right out of school. You had to.
If you want to be an
hound
aerospace
these
engineer,
guys.
you really got to fight to get it. Although I think the industry's changed a bit now, because it seems like in these days now that a lot of the veterans of the space shuttle age are getting close to retirement. Now companies like the one I work for have been going crazy, just trying to hire people, as many people as they can, even getting people back who have maybe not been in the industry for 10 years or so.
Huh.
Because there's so many experienced people who are just retiring, calling it a day, and there's so many positions that need to be filled.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, you went to the University of Utah, right, for the finishing of your schooling, and you were like, I don't know if it top of the class is right, but like you were definitely
Top 10%.
10% of what? Chemistry and
Chemical engineering.
yeah. So you were definitely like on the top tier of a very well-known school, at least in this area. I think it's
In
pretty
Utah,
well-known.
anyway.
but regardless, a pretty good school, and you still had to work real hard to get to where you were at.
It was quite hard for me to get taken seriously for an interview, yes. But I did manage to get to the interview stage. And then one of the things that helped me actually is we had a really good career counselor who used to be who came to the University of Utah. She used to be an HR representative, as she told it in industry. But she came to the interview that she took a huge cut in pay, but she liked the benefits better. And she gave a lot of coaching.
Oh, that's funny.
And I went to every class I could just how to prove it, because like
She was teaching
many
how to get a
people
job.
of my knack, you might say, I've had to work a lot on my social skills, my presentation skills, which has really come in handy, I think, for me professionally as well. And just getting my foot in the door was the real challenge. I didn't get my call back, on a second interview until I was within about 6 months of finishing my master's thesis, or so I thought. And my wife and I were getting we're about to get kicked out of our basement apartment that we were renting.
Wow.
So
Well,
it's
that's
not
pretty
just a matter of getting a certification on Google to become
A rocket
a
scientist.
rocket
You
scientist.
need
No.
to want it. That usually helps. But yeah, you do need an engineering degree if you want to be taken seriously.
So you were very good with chemistry and still are to this day, I'm sure, right?
I'm all right.
So I'd say. But my real question is, how easy is it really to cook meth? Like, is it easy or is it hard? I've been watching the
He's been
show.
watching Breaking Bad.
And so I don't know what to think because I'm like high school teacher cooking the best meth. I don't know.
Strangely enough, I've never actually seen Breaking Bad.
Oh,
But I did take an organic chemistry class and I did make banana oil. So I imagine if you know the right steps that it's not, well,
You're not condoning it. I understand.
I did not condone it, but I imagine if you know the right steps, the process is probably relatively straightforward.
I imagine at least the premise in the show too is like, as a chemist.
If you've got a good chemistry lab, you can do a lot of things that you should or shouldn't do.
Yeah, and you would know like, the proper way to
What
boil or mix or temperatures and all
when to
that.
stop.
It's probably not that much different than like a cooking recipe, for example. Well, you get the recipe, you follow the directions. If you have the right equipment, it's probably
what kind of RV to make it out of.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is exactly why I actually, wanted to come and talk to you guys today. But, just keep cleaning your equipment seems like a pretty basic thing.
You got to wear the
Yeah.
right mask.
Yeah, exactly. Not tweaking yourself. That's a good step.
And Jeff, by the way, just binged Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul in like the
More-
last week and a half. So
I don't even know what the real world is right now.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
No, I'm there with you because I didn't get into Breaking Bad till like I can't remember how many seasons, but it was like 2 seasons before the end.
Yeah.
So I binged the first like 4 seasons and then caught up when the 5th season or whatever came.
Yeah.
So I watched those like normal people, but that first 4 seasons was like,
There's nothing I've done
Nonstop.
normal for
Yeah.
the last 3 weeks. But I have to admit, and I'm really glad we brought you in here, Walter, to talk about this, the main topic.
Well, interesting enough,
I-
Walter White.
Well, there you go. That's true
Oh.
too. But Netflix has a feature where they do a narrator, and so I listen to a lot of it.
oh really?
But it's great though. I think it's great. I didn't listen to any podcast, no music,
what do you mean by
nothing.
narrator? Like it,
I don't even know how to describe
So-
it.
is it like
Director's cut?
is that like a thing where there's a voice that talks about what's on screen?
Yes.
Because you're not actually watching it.
Yes.
So it's like the
woman
person-
walks in agitated,
I'm gonna play a
slamming
thing for
the
you.
door.
This is from
Is
Better
this-
Call
That's
Saul.
funny.
Wait,
You
so
know-
is this kind of like that episode of Family Guy where Peter talks over and narrated his
Yeah.
own life?
And then he walked into the
Okay, I'm gonna play this for you because again, this is why we brought you on, Walter.
Okay.
So this is from Better Call Saul. It's just this very first scene, and when there's dialogue, like
An eye is seen peering through a peephole. The viewer watches an apartment hallway.
It's a computer generated.
It's not.
Oh.
The viewer is Kim. From inside her apartment, she locks the door and puts on a security chain.
That sounds pretty robotic.
She
It might
glances through the peephole one last time.
Yeah, that's not
then turns around
that's a computer.
and stands behind.
I think you're a computer.
Yeah.
Anyway, she
Did you
narrates
say?
it. So whenever cool scenes would come up, like okay, there's this gunfight or whatever. Like
Yeah.
I'll watch that and I'll watch some episodes, but most of the time I'm listening to it. But I probably know it better than you guys.
That's
all I'm
funny.
saying.
That's a new way
I've never-
of experiencing media I didn't know existed.
I never knew it. And
Have you
I
guys
stumbled
never
upon it.
used Audible?
Oh, yeah.
I listen to Audible all the
Kind
time.
of the same thing.
But that's what I thought
exactly.
about. It's like merging Audible and visual, like Netflix
It's like
or
it's like
whatever.
adding the parts of the book that were not put into the movie.
Yeah.
The narration.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like it's funny, I'll put on Netflix when I'm driving and I'll set the phone down in the middle of the console and I'm not watching, I'm listening to it. And my kids are like, I don't think you should be watching that movie. I'm like, what movie? And they're like, oh, they don't even see like what's happening.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. I never even thought about using
Try
the
it.
narr- I've heard
Try
it before, and I'm like, oh, I didn't notice
You know,
that.
if
in
it's good
what I'm
enough,
seeing.
if it's good enough for blind people, it's good enough for me. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
So
I guess so.
anyway, Walter.
Mr. White.
So Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so that's cool. What's the plan? We talked a little bit about Artemis, and I intentionally didn't look. I was really excited about all the James Webb stuff, so I knew a lot about it, but I don't know a lot about Artemis, and kind of intentionally didn't even look into it because we were going to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the goal? Like, when are we supposed to get on the moon again?
We're gonna have, the plan is to have the first woman and the first person of color land on the moon in Artemis 3. And it sounds like they're gonna do that in a SpaceX lander, although other companies are working on that as well.
Oh, so it might be SpaceX, but when is the
Not
goal?
100% sure. Artemis 2 will probably be sometime in 2024, maybe 2025.
Oh, okay.
Pushing for 2024. And Artemis 3 depends when the lander is ready. The rocket boosters have been ready for years. In fact, it's gotten to the point where on the rocket floor, I'm working with people. It's like, yeah, we'll get Artemis 4 built eventually, but we're not in a rush.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And because aren't
At
these
best, we'll be launching like once a year because that's just how long it takes to get everything built, at least on our side, but I don't know what's taking everyone else.
and these rockets, like the SpaceX, for example, a lot of the flying part of it can be automated. Is that right? Like when they land that thing, isn't it a computer steering those?
Computers have
Boosters?
been flying spacecraft since the dawn of the space age.
Oh, they've always been doing it.
They've always been doing that. I mean, to the point, in fact, where like the astronauts on the Mercury program complain of being spam in a can. Because it's like, there's nothing for me to do. I just sit here helplessly in a can, keep my hands to myself, and go flying. And it took all kinds of discussions and arguments and convincing to get NASA to allow them to have even a tiny bit of manual control.
Yeah.
It's almost all controlled by computers, though.
Huh. So in theory, will they send a rocket to the moon empty first before they?
That's basically what they did. Artemis 1, right? I mean,
Well, no,
Artemis
because
1
didn't Artemis 1 just go
it didn't
around
land.
the moon?
Artemis 1 orbited the moon and also released about a dozen small satellites since they had the payload space.
Oh, okay.
But they had the payload that went up there had the capability of hauling people, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Well,
instead they took a minifig Lego guy, and what was the other thing?
Snoopy.
Snoopy.
A Snoopy with
really?
a very
Yeah.
specially designed flight suit, which made me chuckle a little bit. It's
That's funny.
Really? You had the money for that? Okay.
Sidebar, I actually went to Schultz's daughter's house, who runs his whole company now that he's dead. He's here.
Is it in
She's
Alpine?
here in Utah. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Alpine, or Highland.
Yeah. House is way cool. You look in the backyard, and there's like these massive statues of Snoopy's dog house with Snoopy on it.
I think I went there with you.
Did you?
This is back in high school.
No, I went I used to do furniture. I set a bed up in their house, and they were really sweet. Anyway, so he went to the moon. That's cool. Snoop Doggy Dog.
So
Yeah, in fact, one of the most prestigious awards in the aerospace industry is called the Silver Snoopy Award, because Charles Schultz has always been a big fan of the space program. And the Silver Snoopy Award, basically on manned missions, what they'll do is they'll take a bunch of these little silver pins with Snoopy on them into space, and then usually it's kind of like a career time award. Like, you've done really great in your career, they'll give them to individuals in the aerospace industry, so engineers and such. What they'll have a ceremony where an astronaut will actually come and present the actual pin on a person's on the dedicated engineers. Suit.
That's cool.
Their family can
They get a
come,
pin that's
they
been
get-
to space.
Yeah, they get a pin that's been to space. Get the congratulations from the astronaut.
That's cool.
And
love
so, it's on my bucket list for things I want to get. Another thing on my bucket list is to get to go to Kennedy Space Center to help with the actual stacking of the rocket boosters. So we'll
That'd be
see.
cool.
We'll see. Maybe Artemis 2, maybe Artemis 3. We'll see how things go.
yeah, that would be cool.
That's why I became an engineer. I wanted to help send mankind to the stars.
That's cool. What are your thoughts on SpaceX?
I think what Elon Musk has done has been really good for the space industry. Ever since he had his first successful landing, it just seems like aerospace companies have been coming out of nowhere. It's become like the .com bubble of the 2010s and the 2020s. These companies like, yeah, totally, we're going to go to space in 3 years.
Yeah.
Coming out of nowhere. And what's amazing is that several of these have been somewhat successful. Yeah.
Blue Origin.
Blue Origin. I'm not sure what Blue Origin's doing,
The
but
problem with Blue Origin is their rocket looks like a penis. It's just a problem. Like, have you seen it?
Mhm.
those
You
kind of
guys seen
rockets
this?
fly well.
yeah.
Here, I'll
I mean,
bring it
it's aerodynamic.
Well, if that's the best shape
Well,
to
what
fly.
does SpaceX's Falcon 9 look like? You know,
I don't know. Let's look at it.
What
It
does
also does.
SLS? This is aerodynamics.
But how
Yeah.
does NASA pull it off? Theirs don't look like penises. Look, no, that one's really bad. Come on.
This is
Come on.
Jeff Bezos' company, right?
Yeah, Blue Origin. Just Google it yourself. It looks way too phallic. It looks like just shut that off. You can't have that in your search history, Jake. Now,
But
look
the
up-
idea is the top part of that is going to pop off, right?
Both the first,
Like it's going to.
Phil.
both the first and the second stage can come down for a power landing. But anyway,
That's the goal, is what I'm saying.
To
Yeah.
last 3 stages.
well, no, it's only two
The,
stages.
the top
That's
part
only
is
two
actually
stages.
going to land on the moon.
3 bases?
No, that's the
45 seconds max.
that's just the new Shepard
We're so
rocket. but
mature.
yeah, that's a
So
two-stage
that one's
rocket.
not going
it's
to the moon.
suborbital. It's been used for mostly PR, and also William Shatner got to go to space in it. So it's
Oh,
kinda
that's
cool.
right.
Shatner, yeah. It's
I
like
saw that.
it's basically like the Tower of Terror, but it goes to space.
Yeah.
That's the one
That's
that
actually
people
good.
pay like $30,000 to
You
go
mean
in.
yeah, more like several million?
300,000.
Or
Yeah, it was like
however
several
much it was.
million per
Yeah.
ticket, I think. I think they want to get it down to like 400 grand or something is the goal.
Which one did you say looks phallic as well? SpaceX's
SpaceX's Falcon 9.
Falcon 9. Look at that one. Because
Just look at it from that.
everything that SpaceX and Tesla does has been pretty aesthetically pleasing. Like they definitely focus on that.
Falcon 9.
SpaceX is like the Apple of the aerospace industry.
Exactly.
They have a huge fan base who thinks they can do nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Elon Musk is a genius. He is infallible. He's great at everything. It's like, well,
Not really.
no.
Did you see the one that blew up? I did.
Which
Well-
one?
The one that like came down really hard. It was supposed to land, obviously.
Oh, that happens from time
I
to time.
thought that
happened a
was
lot.
kind of an intentional crash so that they can.
Well, that's what he said, but
Oh,
It was a unplanned rapid disassembly.
yeah.
Much different than an unplanned rapid disassembly.
But it looked more like a rough landing.
But that does happen sometimes. But
Yeah, there you go,
I think-
Falcon 9. That looks a bit more streamlined. Like
Yeah, that looks okay. It's still
looks
phallic, I
like
get
the
it.
obelisk.
But it's nothing like Jeff Bezos. Like, ugh. That's not good.
it's
No
just
comment.
a rocket, Jeff.
Okay. I might be looking into it way too much, but
Yeah.
whatever.
You're just on the wrong
Are you
website.
saying all these billionaires are just trying to get to space as sort of a show of their testosterone?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
It's a contest.
Yeah, you're exaggerating something.
Yep.
Compensating. That's
Compensating.
I'm already one of the richest 2 people in the world. Now I'm going to build a rocket.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which, by the way, didn't Elon Musk lose like $100 billion or something in the last couple weeks? Like we talked about Kanye losing $1 billion.
I don't know.
Elon
It doesn't
Musk.
matter, does it?
I
to
think-
him?
Isn't he still the richest even after?
Oh
that?
yeah, he's still by far the richest. But I think I think investors got worried because he's like dinking around with Twitter, so they're like, oh, maybe he won't spend time on Tesla. Anyway, he lost $100 billion in value, just like that.
Tesla is super overvalued anyway. I mean, it's
is.
it's the most valuable car company in the world. There's not a chance in heck they're going to be able to get that money back anytime soon. It's like, okay, you build how many cars a year?
Yeah,
Versus like
They
Toyota.
didn't build any
and
this year.
Ford. You know, these companies that build like hundreds of thousands or millions of cars a year.
yeah.
And I don't know why the stock price is so inflated, but
It's
whatever.
way overinflated because it's not that it's even worth more than all the other ones. Last one I read was it's worth more than like the top 5 combined.
Companies.
Yeah, which
The top
makes-
5 car industries. Like,
Oh, car
if you
industries.
if you
yeah.
take Toyota
It's
and
pure hype.
Ford and Chevy and
Yeah,
So-
Mercedes
definitely-
or whatever.
It never made sense to me.
I've known people who've worked at SpaceX, and their opinion of them is not so high. Either it's been along the lines of, yeah, it's fun to work here, but you'll burn out really fast.
Yeah.
And you'll hate your life if you've been here for more than
That's
3 or
kind
4
of
years.
that's kind of Elon Musk's mindset for his employees. Is he
Right.
wants them to be willing to sleep in the office like he did
Right. And then there's
and work overtime.
others I've known who just had internships there who are worried about safety long term. But then again, SpaceX has been successfully launching. They've taken over the whole launch industry. So I like what they've done for jump-starting Space Age 2.0.
Somebody is gonna die though, right?
Sure.
Like
Space is dangerous.
Like we're having we're gonna start sending all these people back into space, to the moon, to Mars. Someone's gonna die.
We're going to do our very best to keep them safe, but even
There are always contingencies.
there's always contingencies.
And then when you
there's
leave our
always worries.
atmosphere, it just exponentially grows risk.
Like when we send those first people to Mars, they're gonna die there, right?
That depends who sends them.
Yeah.
As soon as they land, it's going to blow
They're
up.
gonna
right?
die.
I'm telling you, that really depends who sends them. Because if NASA doesn't think they're going to be able to get them back safely, they're not going to send them.
No, they won't.
No.
But I bet you if SpaceX
Musk might.
sends
So you're
them-
saying like if China or Russia sends them or something, maybe,
Yeah.
or like,
I was thinking
or,
more like Musk. But
or
anyway.
yeah, like a company, somebody who was like, oh, I don't care.
yeah, sign this release of liability. You're
There-
now an
Yeah.
astronaut.
Perhaps you've heard of the Mars One mission.
I haven't.
I might be getting that reference wrong, but like some years ago, there's this company that was trying to raise all this money through private investors to send people on a one-way trip to Mars, and a lot of people did sign up, knowing it was going to be a one-way trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I don't. Yeah, NASA's not going to do that.
You know, I don't think any government,
No government's
no
going to.
U.S. government agencies.
U.S. government's not going to do that. I don't think China would want even Russia would want to do that, though. To be honest, I don't think Russia's going anywhere in space anytime soon.
What other countries have a decent space program? We always hear about China.
Well,
US.
China's built a space station. We don't hear about it much, but they've built a space station. They've got astronauts going to and from it, and they are planning on going to the moon. And they actually had a rover go to the moon a couple of years ago that worked quite successfully on the far side. They even collected some materials and had it sent back to Earth. So they used robots to do basically the equivalent of the Apollo program.
But it was built
Wow.
by 9-year-olds.
from TikTok. Yeah. Jeez.
No, but that's crazy. Because I watched that movie, The Martian, with Matt Damon.
It's an awesome movie, and it's an even better book.
Yeah, is it really? Because I
great.
I
I love
thought
the
the
book.
whole time, I'm like, apparently nobody who made this show ever tried to grow potatoes because that ain't gonna work. But maybe, I don't know.
I don't know.
And here
Interstellar
I-
was better.
And here I just got all worked up about the opening scene where there's these huge gusts of wind blowing things
Yeah.
over. It's like, Martian atmosphere is less than 1% as thick as Earth. So, yeah, you might have a 100-mile-per-hour wind.
But it's not really you're not going to feel it much.
You might there's a light breeze, even though wind's pounding you. There's not enough wind there to give it that kind
Not
of
enough
force.
substance in the air.
There's not enough gas in the air to give it that kind of a force. But I let it go for the author because without that, the story just could not happen.
I
Yeah.
didn't write
Right.
the producers.
I let it fly.
I got mad because I've been gardening for like 10 years, and only the last 2 years was I successful at getting like more yield of potatoes than I put in the ground.
Well, are you the best botanist on Mars?
I'm not.
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
so
If you went to Mars, you
he
would
was
be.
obviously really good, but what I was watching, I was like, I just know, right? I can tell you it's not going to work. You're going to put that potato in. If it even lives, you're going to get like just as much potato out. But I could be wrong.
Matt Damon.
Well,
Yeah.
well, also in the book, they explain that, since there's naturally no life on Mars, all the pests and the stuff that would normally, kill potatoes
beneficial
on
microbes.
Earth. Yeah, all the pests that would normally kill potatoes on Earth won't be there on Mars. But yeah, Andy Weir did a lot of good research on that book, and I just finished reading it. Now I'm reading, going through another of his books on Audible called The Hail Mary Project, which has kind of a weird name, but it's actually a really fun sci-fi journey about this American science teacher who ends up on this interstellar journey to save the world, and it's just really fun. It takes some of the same flavor of The Martian and then applies it to interstellar travel, meeting aliens, and fun stuff like that.
Huh. Have to try it out.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's time to end this thing off. It's funny because it's like we just barely scratched. We didn't even get into the math, which I know you're also amazing at, right? Chemistry and math.
I'm pretty good at that.
Yeah, he's really good, I'm sure.
What you were going to ask him?
No, I was not going to ask him.
You were
going to
be questions. Like, so how much rocket fuel divided by 7?
No, it was a joke.
The equation for
I'm
the
not
slope
getting
of
into
a
any
line.
of that because I wouldn't understand.
The answer
any
is
of
the Tsiolkovsky rocket equation.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
You can find that online.
Oh, yeah. You can find it on the internet.
No, but here's a good question. What do you think we need to do to fix America, Walter?
I think we need to get comfortable with giving people the right to be wrong. It's been something that's been on my mind for some time now. I feel like a lot of our problem in America is that we have people who have these violent reactions and they think, oh, I don't agree with that person. They are a horrible, evil person. They need to be destroyed. And I think we need to get to a place where it's like, okay, I don't agree with your choices. I don't even agree with what you say. I think you're kind of dumb. I might think you're racist or whatever, but I'm not gonna punish you for being stupid. Your life's gonna do that to you just fine.
Right.
I think if we want to fix America, we just need to get comfortable with the fact that, hey, guess what? We don't all think the same way. We don't all have the same opinions, and that's okay.
Right.
If you have an opinion I think it is horribly wrong, well, you can be wrong.
Yeah.
And maybe that's, maybe that sounds ridiculous because, some people think there's no objective right or wrong, but physics disagrees. But anyway.
Well, the interesting thing about what you just said made me realize something just now, which is the other problem is that people think that there is two options, right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually, I hate to even say this, but there is a spectrum. Like people take what Kanye said, and it's like for some reason you have to either be for it or against it. There's got to be some kind of spectrum there. I mean, right?
We live in an age that has forgotten the importance of nuance, and even in my job, doing rocket science, being an engineer, you know what, like. Not even 10% of my job is the calculations. 90% of my job is getting permission to do a job and communicating to a lot of other engineers and, our customers saying, hey, and this is why it's the right thing to do. And when I tell them, I don't necessarily give them even all the math. I usually give them the summary and saying, and, here's the long story short version.
Right.
There's a lot of nuance and people can be 90% wrong, but there's a grain of truth. There's something... People usually have something worth listening to, even if they are 98% off base, and maybe they're not literally right, but maybe it's just, they're in an emotional place or they have an agenda or, any kind of thing that you don't understand. And I think we need to be okay. We need to get to a place where we can be comfortable that whatever someone else says, as long as it's, whatever someone else says, we don't have to agree with it, but it's okay.
Yeah, there doesn't have to be this destructive element. Like, that's the weird thing. It's like,
right.
Oh, this person said that thing. Let's destroy them. You're like,
right.
What?
American media thrives off
Cancel.
of polarization.
Right.
And anyone who doesn't agree with you is like, oh, they're an evil fascist. They're an evil communist, when it's like, well, no, most real people who vote Republican or Democrat are just people.
Right.
And people vote independent or whatnot. They're people just say certain things, and it's fine. That's what makes America work, is the ability to live and let live for the most part. I think as long as someone is not, like committing actual violence against me, they can think that theirs flat. Okay, sure. I'm not going to try to burn down your house because I think you've got enough problems to worry about without any difference from me. I'm not going to bring down the government because...
Cancel him. Because if he says the Earth's flat, other people will believe him. We need to punish
we
him.
won't progress as a society.
Yeah.
It's like was it Jefferson that said, if it doesn't break my leg or pick my pocket, what does it matter to me, or something like that?
Right. Exactly.
Just
Right.
Do
Yeah.
whatever you want. Do whatever you want. And if it doesn't bother me, then
I don't think people should just do
doesn't hurt me.
whatever they want, but I mean, I think we need to get away from a place where we punish people because we disagree with their opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay.
All in favor? No, I'm just kidding. I agree with you 100%. That's great. That's awesome. And I think that if people were more understanding that way, we would fix America.
I like it.
Well, thank you again, Walter, for coming on.
My pleasure.
Thanks for showing up, Jake.
I'm here too.
Oh, hey, Phil.
Did you forget about me?
I did.
And if you want to help fund Artemis 2 launch, go to patreon.com/AmericanForked.
That is not how it works.
All of your proceeds go directly to us talking
for
about
congressmen who want to make space, not war.
it. There you go.
All of our proceeds go towards getting a silver Snoopy pin that has not been in space for Walter
And was made by my 8-year-old daughter.
with an $8 can of spray paint.
No, we won't even put spray paint on it.
That's
Let's
true.
be honest.
I know.
It's not even a pin.
But
It's not even anything.
But if
I
we
got a
get enough,
sticker.
If we get enough people on Patreon, we might be able to get some
Oh, yeah.
nice
There
silver
you
spray.
go.
Oh, and by the way, patrons that are giving us money on Patreon, you should know that your money is going directly to billboard advertisements.
Yeah.
And for some reason, only in Las Vegas because we can't get a single one in Utah.
Approved.
Yeah,
We can't get any
because,
artwork approved.
because the name of our podcast is
So divisive.
incendiary language or something is
Yeah.
what they said.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah. Also, if anybody listening has a interesting artwork that we could use for a billboard that might work,
Or a
Submit
freeway
that to us.
side piece of property that we can erect.
yeah, or if anyone has property by the freeway that we can just put a sign.
We should
on.
just put our logo on the mountain. Remember
There
we
you
were
go.
talking about the G?
Yep.
Let's just go up there and
Let's
stick
do
it
it.
up there so that everyone knows.
Okay,
Right?
I'll meet you there.
Okay. Good night.
All right. Good night.
Bye.
The end.
Good night.
2022, 2022, 2022, 2022, 2022, 2022, 2022, 2022, 2022, 2022, 2022, 2022, 2022, American fork, American fork, American fork, 2022, 2022, 2022, 2022, 2022, okay. Didn't know where I was going with that.